Hi everyone, welcome to Climate Cafe, the place where we have conversation with people from all walks of life who are passionate about climate change and sustainability. I'm your host Vidya.
And I'm Deepthi, and today I have the pleasure of introducing Miss Gloria Namande to you, who will now introduce herself.
Thank you, Vidya and Deepthi. My name is Gloria Namande. I work with the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, in Uganda, and I'm a program manager. I support the energy and climate change portfolio of the UNDP country office. I'm a person that is passionate about climate change and specifically on mitigation, low-carbon development systems, technologies, and also very enthusiastic about supporting communities have a meaningful change in terms of their livelihoods while addressing the impacts of climate change. So I've supported countries in East Africa, in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, and others in developing climate change strategies, programs. And recently I supported the government of Uganda to update the National Determined Contribution, the NDC, to the Paris Agreement for Uganda. I've also supported the development of the Integrated Monitoring, Reporting and Verification tool that is enhancing data collection, reporting and tracking on NDC targets, but also on the greenhouse gas emissions for Uganda, climate finance flows, and also the different climate change adaptation and mitigation actions. So this MRV tool is one of the best case studies we have, I think, globally on how countries are able to track and report on their adaptation and mitigation ambitions and targets under the Paris Agreement. Yeah, so my work has been really evolving around developing systems strategies and also supporting communities to implement locally led climate change actions where, for instance, in the communities, we've set up climate action grants where we've provided grassroots women and youth-led organizations funding to implement actions that contribute to climate action. Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. Thank you.
That
Great.
all sounds amazing. Thank you, Gloria. Welcome to our podcast. We're so excited to have you here and learn more about everything you do and your work. I'm particularly very interested in hearing you talk about your experience in grassroots. I think we'll delve into that a lot more throughout this conversation. But to start with, I just wanted to ask you, what inspired you to pursue a career in climate change in this field? What drew you to this field in the first place?
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. So my inspiration came way back in 2007 when I think Uganda experienced the first El Nino, and there were loss of lives. Floods were more frequent that year around September, and also during that year we had long periods of drought. So everything came in the extreme. We had long periods of drought and also extreme rainfall. So in 2007, I was inspired because I was of the view that what is causing all these different issues and challenges, and how do we tackle these challenges? So that's when I realized I should pursue something around climate action. So I enrolled for my Master of Science in environment. I majored in a Master of Science in Sustainability, majoring in Environment and Development, and climate change was also part of those key core components of my course. And all I wanted was to look at solutions and helping communities, and also looking at the global trends right now with increases in global warming. If we don't act anything right now, I feel I need to make a contribution to the communities, to the society, in whichever way possible, to save lives and also to save planet Earth, because we only have one planet Earth. So I went on to pursue that master's course, but when I came back, I also realized I need to make a contribution to my community. So I looked out for different ways I can make this contribution, and working with government, seeing how I can probably contribute to policy influence, because without the enabling policy frameworks, nothing can happen. So I joined a German organization that is also working on renewable energy and climate change. And from there, I was contributing more towards development of policies at the East African level. It was an East African regional energy advisory platform, which we developed to support countries share knowledge and experiences across different climate change and energy policies and frameworks, supporting countries to develop the policies, supporting resource mobilization. So I did a lot around the development of the climate change policies. Actually, that's in Uganda and other East African countries during that time, around 2009, 10. That's when they came up with their different climate change policies that has laid the ground for a number of policy instruments right now, like the nation-determined contributions. Actually, Uganda already now has a Climate Change Act in place. All these instruments were developed, I think, during that time, and I made a contribution to that. And now I've seen that countries now, those that have ratified the Paris Agreement, we have over 197 countries, but even in Africa, we see that many countries are right now seeing climate change as not only a global issue, but also a national issue that has to be tackled through a number of measures, the conservation of natural resources, meeting the climate change targets in the different sectors in agriculture, forestry. In Uganda, we are looking at how we can reverse our deforestation rate, which is really alarming. It's about 2% per year. We've lost our forest cover every year by 2%. Now, our forest cover right now is less than 8%. From the initial maybe over 30 years, where it used to be about 30%. So you see that the losses have been really enormous, and because of that, there's been consequences of increasing temperatures, mudslides, floods, loss of biodiversity, loss of livelihoods, and all these different advantages we have around nature-based solutions. So through that work, I was inspired to make a change, and also having a background with my first degree in forestry, I realized I can make a contribution with my knowledge and experiences to support communities, but also influence government policy to tackle issues around environment, around climate change, and also realize the different ambitions in these policies that have been put together, have been implemented, like the NDCs, the climate change policies, and all these instruments that would help countries be able to realize those climate change targets have been really at the forefront of supporting the development of such instruments. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Vidya will agree with me here, is that the whole community-driven passion, desire to help is kind of like a core aspect of getting into this field of work, right? Maybe we can get into talking a little bit more about the specific projects you've done, maybe a favorite one that you've done in the past. What has stood out to you as like something that's been the most significant or has had like real world effects that you have seen? But do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, actually, I came across a article on UNDP. So, speaking of disasters, it's very important to stress on the adaptation front, right? And I read that article where UNDP is leading this project on Climate Promise Initiative, and I also attended this Africa Climate Week virtually, and came to know that how Uganda has implemented this IMRV system for climate action. So, would you like to tell us more on this Climate Promise Initiative by UNDP?
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. Yes, so the Climate Promise Initiative is a global initiative by UNDP to support whichever country that is interested to revise its targets to the Paris Agreement, because we know they had the Paris Agreement in 2015, that every 5 years countries are obliged to revise their targets through the nationally determined contributions. So UNDP has supported over 120 countries to revise their targets in the NDCs and revise their NDCs. So, yeah, and also we took this approach of call of society engagement, where we looked at a series of approaches, engaging communities, consultations at national and regional levels to ensure that the NDC targets are ambitious, and also to ensure that they're representing the issues on ground. So through that Climate Promise, we've also set up an integrated monitoring, reporting, and verification system. This MRV tool or system has been put in place to enhance data collection, reporting, and tracking on 5 components. The first is the greenhouse gas inventory. We are now tracking our emission reductions as per the NDC targets from the different sectors, including agriculture, forestry, land use, energy, transport, waste, and industry processes and product use, the IPPU sector. So we are looking at, tracking emission reductions, but also identifying areas where there could be source of emissions, so that we can be able to address those areas through the different mitigation strategies. So the greenhouse gas inventory is one of those. Then the second component is on adaptation targets, where we're able to track also the extent to which we are meeting those targets in the NDC. The mitigation targets, where projects that contribute to emission reductions can also be tracked, and also we can see to the level to which they are contributing in terms of emission reductions. Then the fourth component is on climate finance. We are able to track the different contributions in terms of climate finance for those different actions on adaptation and mitigation, whether it's through grants, whether it's through concessional financing, so whether it's from government or from bilateral donors. The different sources of climate finance are tracked to ensure that also for government can plan and effectively identify different sources for resource mobilization to achieve those climate change targets. And then the fifth one is the SDGs. Because we've seen that climate action is SDG 13, but overall the different actions implemented, say whether in energy or transport, contribute to other sustainable development goals. So we are also able to track the contribution of these actions towards the achievement of the sustainable development goals, and also gender indicators are included, with extent to which women and men contribute, but also how they are affected. And this can enhance overall planning inside of government when it comes to implementation, budgeting for climate action. So I think this MRV tool that we have put in place is one of the success stories we have in the region, because of course in Uganda and maybe Kenya, not so many countries have put these systems in place. So you cannot report on what you have not measured, and you cannot also track it without any system. So for us, even with a global stock take, we do see this in NDC synthesis reports. This information has to be provided at subnational level. We need to also plan for implementation at subnational level by knowing what's happening. So we're able to use this tool to generate these monitoring reports, and more of a decentralized tool where each of the sectors has ability to provide information also from the district levels to the national levels. But not only enhancing reporting at national level, international level, but also government reporting. Like the different ministries, the Ministry of Water and Environment now is going to use this tool to be able to generate annual reports around climate action. So I think this is one of the it's a good case study that
all this sounds like very ambitious and challenging project to me. And so there must be very a lot of challenges also in implementation of this project, right? So would you like to share some of the challenges or difficulties you guys are identifying in this?
Yeah, thank you, Vidya. I think the biggest challenge has been data availability, data collection, because right now we see that the different sectors have different ways of data and reporting and storage and data collection. So identifying what data is available and how useful this data is across sectors is different, because there is no structured way by which this data across sectors is collected. So data issues, challenge, and capacity, of course. We've done trainings for the different sectors, but this tool is yet to be operationalized at the subnational level through the actual data collection, which is a phase right now that we are going to undertake. So capacity building is also an ongoing activity that has to be done to ensure that people are able to understand the type of data they are going to collect and use the data collection template to ensure that relevant data is provided and collected. And then also, of course, not only just in terms of data collection, but also reporting and making making sense of that data. So that's also something that I think is a challenge, but I think we are looking at the continuous capacity development. And then also coordination across sectors is also a challenge, because now we have the Ministry of Water and Environment that is responsible for this, the climate change department, but has to work with all the different line ministries. So issues around coordination. So we're looking at probably a platform that will bring all the different actors together to ensure that there is systematic flow of information and data from the different sectors. Yeah, so I think those are the key challenges. Thank you.
Yeah, I think once capacity is built and we all start using this tool, I think this tool will be a game changer for whole climate action tracking thing, and will definitely strengthen the whole transparency among the countries on reporting.
Yeah, I concur with you too as well, because under the transparency framework, if we have to report on our emissions profile for the countries, I think without these systems in place, or even the next cycle of NDC has to be informed by data. We had challenges with first cycle. There was no information on to what extent first NDC has been implemented. So now I hope we can be able to track that with this system. So I think it's really a game changer in terms of reporting and data collection.
Absolutely. I think it's so useful because, as you said, it streamlines all of it, right? So it makes it easier for us to look at everything in a very holistic kind of overarching way, which we wouldn't be able to do if we didn't have all these different facets of the tool working together. But I actually wanted to ask you, hearing you speak about all of this, you're the program officer for energy and climate change at UNDP. You're working on all these projects, all these different things. But I wanted to ask you, how do you deal with stress and burnout? Because just hearing you talking about it, you're working on so many different things. You must be so booked and busy. And again, this is not a very we know this can be a very challenging field of work too, because of the scope of the work. We have to deal with a lot of disaster and a lot of quite frankly depressing things, right? And I'm still at the very start of this, and you've been working on this for quite a while. I wanted to pick your brain about how you deal with all of it. How do you balance your professional life as this program officer, but also kind of take time off and deal with burnout? You know?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really want to know about this.
We need to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a challenge actually. We always talk about work-life balance, but realistically, it's not easy. So, okay, what I normally do is whatever tasks I have to achieve, say for a week, I then put them together. I identify who I'm going to work with, and then I usually work with government a lot. So we have a team at the ministry that I work with, and I usually put an open communication with them, and I also get their support, but also internally sharing that, of course, in the UN system, everyone is very, very busy. I can tell you, but trying to get some support from colleagues has also been helpful. And I think also I try to create a balance and take some time off for myself. It's not easy, but when you think about, for instance, weekends, how I should say, I'm not opening my computer now. I just have to focus and think about family and myself. I think that also helps a lot. So I just usually tell myself that, at some cases I have to slow down, and I try to, do other things that probably can bring some kind of refreshness, in some kind of peace. I don't know how I should say it, but yeah, just to hold back a little bit and think about myself has also been helpful, but also seeking support from the teams, from colleagues is also something that I always do. And yeah, slowly, yeah, I get there, but it's never easy,
No.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun? Like, what do you like doing to unwind from all of this? Because it is quite stressful, I imagine.
Yeah, I love quiet places. So when in my free time, I just love listening to music or inspirational talks. Or yeah, I usually gospel music heals me and soothes my mind. So, or go to quiet places. Like I love being near the water. So maybe going to the beach, just to be outside and observe nature and relax. Yeah, so I love quiet times, and wherever I can get some quality quiet time with some bit of nature and music, not like maybe jazz or gospel music, like soothing music. Yeah, that really helps me to relax. Yes, and also spending time with my family.
No, that's lovely. Thank you for sharing. I also love going to the beach or just any kind of body of water. Just staring at the water is quite therapeutic. Yeah. What's your favorite way to unwind, Vidya?
I think the answer to every problem is nature. I think, yeah, the same way I also step out from office for some time or step out from home if I feel very overwhelmed or any kind of second thoughts if I have. So yeah, nature is the ultimate place where we go. And a very important thing Gloria said about the effective communication, like it plays a very major role in balancing our professional and personal lives. I think so.
You're so right. Communication is very much key for all of this. Along the same lines of like picking your brain for advice with your experience, I wanted to talk to you about integrating gender equality and human rights perspectives into your work, into climate change, because that is something that I have a very keen interest in. My background is in gender studies. I did my bachelor's in gender studies. I did my master's in gender, peace, and security. And I've often found that when you kind of call on people to integrate these perspectives, they kind of resist or there is some backlash with it. I wanted to ask you, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with resistance and backlash from those who don't share your views or values when you're trying to kind of integrate these socially inclusive perspectives into work?
Yeah, I think this is very a critical question actually, because gender in natural resource management or in issues around environment. Most times people don't understand it and they overlook it because they don't see that connection. But I'll just first of all say that all nature-based solutions, if we engage issues around gender, women in the management of natural resources or nature-based solutions or issues around climate action, that's the only way we can achieve these planned goals or the way we can attain any benefits. Because we've seen, especially in developing countries like Uganda or women in sub-Saharan Africa, women are responsible for the domestic work, for instance, cooking, and because they are responsible for cooking, they have to go out to look for firewood for cooking. They have to go to the farm to look for food. And imagine a woman who isn't able to provide for their children. Because, for instance, there is a drought and whatever, there is nothing to eat. Or because they are going to pick firewood and there is no firewood, that means the family goes hungry. So I think sometimes the issues around gender and human rights, people don't understand that it's the role, significantly, it's the role of women to support in the planning for families, and because of their domestic role, which clings a lot around nature, they should be at the forefront. So what we have done, for instance, in the NDC, we structured this in a way that we integrate issues of women and youth, of course, in this implementation plan. We've also tried to make sure that we have a gender action plan. We have an NDC gender action plan that has been developed, that has looked at all those underlying barriers around, control and power over these resources, and how women can come into play an effective role. So these gender action plans have been developed, of course, ensuring that women are at the forefront and make a meaningful contribution, because most times, in the design of our different programs, usually women come in at the very last time. Sometimes people think, it's not necessary to engage them, but now we try to engage them in the beginning through consultation, make sure that this gender action plan is inclusive, also engaging youth, because they also make a significant contribution in terms of innovation, in terms of, technology. They're now looking at digital solutions where the youth and women can come up with solutions to tackle these climate change issues. Like, I'll give an example. We created those, we call them climate action grants, where we are giving women and youth-led organizations small grants of about $10,000 to implement an innovative solution around climate. And there is a youth group that we gave funds. They have done an application, a web-based application, to tackle the issue of waste management. And they're able to connect garbage collectors to households through this app, because there's been issues of waste and garbage dumped everywhere, but because there were poor disposal methods, and because of this app, many households are now able to link up with these companies, and it has really improved waste management. We also gave an organization of women in eastern Uganda that provided solar lanterns to women, to widows, and well, it was very touching to hear one of them say, even my eyesight has improved, because if I was using a kerosene lamp and now I have enough light, then one says, my children are able to have improved grades because they have enough lighting. They can be able to read for longer hours. So you see that when you hear about these stories, the transformation impact is beyond not only climate. It's looking at education. It's looking at economic empowerment for the women. It's looking at job creation. So the co-benefits that are associated with these different initiatives is something that I think we should look at most. Not only if people don't see the environmental benefits, they should look at the other benefits, because if jobs are created, if women are economically empowered and can take care of their families, if children can be studied for longer hours, I think this is the best satisfaction that we can get. So yeah, I think personally I look at it from that angle, benefits of the other advantages that probably people overlook, but can be realized with gender and inclusiveness and gender equality empowerment. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, that was such a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that. And it's really great to hear that you've seen these real world impacts of making sure that gender and human rights perspectives are included from the beginning. We were just talking with our team the other day about how we often found that gender perspectives are often included as an afterthought, but it's so important for it to be included right from the very beginning of a project or a program or anything, right? To make sure that the needs of the most vulnerable are met adequately everywhere. So yeah, that's really great to hear that all these things, all these actions are having these real world amazing impacts that you can see.
Yeah, sure. When you see this level of satisfaction that the communities can get, the lives change because of one solution, because of, like with this energy, sometimes it's taken for granted, but we've seen children studying under candles, and because of that, it's not like just giving light to someone can be very transformational. So yeah, I think we need to look at the bigger picture of things, and I hope that people can be able to see this, that it's not about, even those who don't think of protection of the environment is important, but there is food, there is shelter, there is light, there's all the benefits that we have in this world that derive from the environment and from the nature-based solutions, and we have to conserve them and protect them from the impacts of climate change, because without that, we will not be able to thrive.
True, I think like gender equality as an SDG is acting as an accelerator for achieving the whole SDG goals, I think. And speaking of that, as we know that we have approached the midpoint to 2030 agenda. So, like the global progress towards the achieving SDGs is falling short, right? And recently, like this year, a lot of things are happening. Like I'm happy also, like a lot of climate action and global challenges we are addressing to. What do you think? Like, what are some of the challenges and obstacles like to attain the Agenda 2030?
Yeah, I think from perspective of the developing countries, the main challenge has been financing. It's not that financing is not available; it's available, but it has not been allocated to the critical sectors. So you find that the SDGs have fallen short. Actually, they are working around the rescue plan for them, but until we are able to identify what is really critical to achieve around these SDGs is when they can be achieved. Because, for instance, if we look at energy, SDG 7, Sub-Saharan Africa, I think we still have over 1 billion people that are not connected to electricity. And because of that, we cannot have industrialization. And that means the other SDGs cannot be achieved on industrialization, economic empowerment, job creation, and all this. So there's an interconnect. The SDGs are kind of interconnected. But the key drivers for this transformation changes, especially around SDGs. For instance, if we, for instance, highlight some of those like driving forces, like which is energy access, electricity access, ensuring that there is an increase in electrification rates in Africa, in Sub-Saharan Africa, that can promote industrialization, it can create jobs, and also it can help us on the transition energy, this whole topic about energy transition can also be achieved, because Africa is a source of, like, we have been abundant, sunshine, we have all the resources, the natural resources that we need, with hydro, renewable energy, but they have not been exploited. So if financing can be allocated to such sectors, critical sectors, then it can also drive the other SDGs. So I think the interconnection of the SDGs is important, and also allocation of financing to critical areas. And not only financing, but of course the capacity and technology. The technology, we've seen that, for instance, in energy, I'll say give an example, most of the technologies are advanced right now, but the access to these technologies is limited. And even on climate action, if we are to achieve SDG 13, it's all about implementation of our climate change targets. Now, if it's energy, if it's transport, this is cross-cutting across the different SDGs. So I think it is important to bring in the interconnectedness with the SDGs, to allocate financing to those critical sectors that can drive the other SDGs and drive economic development, but also support countries to ensure that they have access to technology and financing, which I think has been a gap. And there's also not been any SDG tracking kind of matrix, like on health or education. Like, what are the benchmarks for those SDGs to be achieved? Since that's also been a major challenge. So I think those are the key issues that now we need to consider before they expire in just a few years to come.
I think that was all like super insightful. I think this lack of funding has been like a pretty common consensus along a lot of different countries about challenges in meeting these goals. I think that's very true. I'm acutely aware of the time, so maybe we should just wrap up really quick. Is there anything else you'd want to add, Gloria? Anything else you want to share with us? But anything doesn't have to be specifically this SDG related, but anything to finish us off.
You want to give to our listeners who are pursuing their career in this field?
Yeah, I think on the aspect of pursuing a career in this field, in the climate change field or environment and natural resource, is really important. And I would encourage people, whoever is interested to make a difference in another person's life, to take this path, because it's the only way we can save the earth for which we all depend, and it's the only way we can save lives. Because if we don't have water, if there's a drought and there's no water, there will be death. In Uganda, I would still say that I think beginning of this year we had over 1,000 people dying in northern Uganda because of famine. This is an area that received rainfall for only 3 months, from June to September, and the rest of the year it's dry. So how do people survive now without these solutions, which are best solutions, which are God-given, like water, food? We cannot have oxygen without the trees, which are carbon sinks. So I think for me, it's important that we take these issues of climate, issues of environment more seriously than before, because it's the backbone for our survival. It's a backbone for our survival in terms of food, in terms of shelter, in terms of water, in terms of everything we need to thrive. So, and there are not so many experts also in this area. So I'd still encourage people to, pursue interest and, try as much as possible to find solutions that support communities, because with one, you never know, one solution can make a difference in other people's lives. Like I mentioned, one of the solutions we provided on solar lanterns in eastern Uganda, in our case, has led to a transformation in children's lives. Children are able to study for longer hours. Their grades have improved because of enough light. So, and because of that, they will be hopefully more empowered and contribute to development. this country or the world. So you never know, but whatever you do, where it leads. So it's just important that we try to make a difference as much as possible and look at the bigger picture, and not only focus, say, we're saving the planet through conserving wetlands, but we know for these wetlands are source of fish, source of methane capture, they are carbon sinks. But without them, probably we will not have access to enough water. So we look at the bigger picture and focus on lives, improving lives, and making a difference in the lives of others and the community, of course, at large. So yeah, I think this is one of the. I'm lucky that I was able to take this path, this field, because it's very satisfying to see that one solution that you implement that the impact is bigger than what you think. So yeah, people should get interested and together we can be able to save Mother Earth and save lives. Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you. Like, absolutely, the smallest action can have such lasting and such significant impact. And I think it's really important for all of us to consider the big picture. And this is a really important field to be working in and looking at, especially now. So thank you so much, Gloria, for sharing your knowledge with us and letting us pick your brain for the last hour. It's been so valuable, and it's been lovely to talk to you and hear your thoughts about everything.
Thank you so much, Gloria, for joining.
Thank you to DP, and thank you to you, Vidya. It was really great interacting with you.
So how did you find that, Vidya?
I think it was a very inspiring episode. Since Gloria is from UNDP, she really highlights this part of UNDP, the notion which UNDP follows, that is leaving no one behind. And also that story was so inspiring to me. The one which they distributed the lamps in the community and how it impacted the women there, and how students were able to study for longer hours. The women's eyesight got more stronger. So all these things, I think seeing an impact on the grassroots level is so like fulfilling, and it's like the actual measurement of the impact of the project, right?
No, absolutely. I think the thing that really stuck out to me, she also repeated this quite a bit, was think of the bigger picture, right? Like, think of what are you doing it all for? It's community, it's making sure that it has lasting impact in a bigger picture sense. And that's really important to consider, because I think when you and I don't know if you feel this way, but when you're just looking at numbers and letters on a laptop, it can kind of be quite distant, and you can tend to forget that there are people behind all of it. So thinking about the bigger picture, thinking about the people is crucial to making sure that we're empathetic and whatever we do is sustainable long term for a lot more people, And I really also liked that she shared with us how she likes to take time out and have that work-life balance, because even though this is such a noble profession that she's in, it's important to kind of even look after ourselves and take time out and make sure that we are in the best condition to keep on helping other people,
Definitely. I think work-life balance is such a vast topic, and which like we in the normal lives also should look after, and how the effects, the tips which she gave is so like so much effective. I feel like if you feel like how she just reconnects with nature whenever she feels overwhelmed or anything, or with her family. So yeah, it's an effective communication, of course. So really enjoyed the whole episode with Gloria.
Yeah, what a great first episode, right? We got to pick the brains of one of the most influential people in the UNDP in East Africa. That's awesome for us.
Yeah, and really Uganda is leading from front. I think Uganda has put forth a stronger foot in the climate action.
No, absolutely. You're so right. And we're so lucky to have Gloria on this week too. This month, we were so lucky to have Gloria on this episode to come share all that with us. So thank you everyone for listening to our first episode of the Climate Cafe. We were so happy that you came to listen, and hopefully you're looking forward to more episodes as we bring on more people who are passionate about climate change and sustainability into the cafe so we can pick their brain and learn a lot more.
Yeah, until then, please take care of yourself and the planet.
Sweet. Thank you. Goodbye.